it's Crystal Trammell of Birthing and Conscious Choice. Today we're going to be looking at some birth art. I really think it's important to do art, even if you're not an artist, while you're pregnant in preparation for labor and childbirth. I think it's a really great way to kind of get in touch with your subconscious feelings and desires, fears, things that are kind of lingering beneath the surface that you might not be consciously aware of. Things like line, shape, form, color really tend to speak to us in ways that words cannot. One assignment that I always think is important to do is to create a picture of a pregnant woman. I think this is a really basic one, and it really gets in touch with how you see pregnancy on other people, how you see it on yourself, how well are you integrating pregnancy with who you are. And when I had my first baby, that was almost 14 years ago, when I was pregnant with him, so 15 years ago, I was taking my first childbirth course, and they gave us that assignment, draw a pregnant person. And I could not do it. And I sat there, and everyone around me is drawing, bent over their papers, taking different crayons and markers. And I sat there bent over my paper with a feeling of dread, panic, nausea. I couldn't do it. I couldn't draw a pregnant woman. But I had to draw something. And so, or I felt like I did at the time. So I started thinking, what does pregnancy mean to me? I think that was, that phrase was a prompt that the childbirth instructor gave us. Well, what does pregnancy mean to you? Seeing that I was having trouble with drawing. And this was the drawing that I created in that class. I've saved it all these years. This is, I pulled it out of my son's scrapbook. Do you see what I drew? I drew a baby. I drew a pretty cool baby. I was pretty proud of myself, and everybody in the class oohed and awed over my baby drawing. Wow, that's so, that's a really realistic picture, Crystal. That's great. And it is, isn't it? It's very, with the roundness of the womb and the detail on the little feet and the face. And it didn't occur to me until many years later that there was something behind it. Why did I draw this and why could I not draw a pregnant person? Why could I not draw myself? Why could I not draw pregnancy? And what pregnancy meant to me at that time was just baby. I'm gonna have a baby. That's as far as I was able to take it. I was not able to integrate what the larger meaning of what pregnancy, childbirth, labor might have meant for me at the time. I was going into that experience with the brakes on, with sparks flying, holding on as tightly as I could to my current reality, even though I wasn't particularly satisfied with that either. The only thing that I could integrate was, okay, I'm going to have a baby. I was terrified to go through labor, terrified to be pregnant. I was terrified that my body was changing. I was afraid that I would gain weight and wouldn't be able to lose it. And I was afraid that I would have stretch marks, and I was terrified, right down to the possibility of getting an IV for fluids. The whole thing terrified me. And so my drawing, cool as it is, years later, I finally realized that that I drew this because this was the only thing that I could integrate. And this was what I had hoped for my child. For instance, the blue and the purple are very calming colors. Purple is typically symbolic of, higher consciousness. Of course, it was a color of royalty in millennia past. And it's typically signifies like your connection with source, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. And then blue is, think of the ocean and water, peacefulness, calming, soothing. Initially, I couldn't even pick colors to start with, but then I thought, well, what do I hope for this child? And those colors are what came to mind. But yeah, I couldn't dream of drawing pregnancy. The roundness of the belly and the blossoming and all of that. I could not see a bright side. I could not see a happy side of that. And at that time in my life, if something wasn't beautiful and happy, I pretended it didn't exist. No one even could tell that I was pregnant until I was almost 5 months pregnant, the first time that I was. Partly because I was really thin and I was really young. But I think that also has to do with I didn't want the body changes. I was so fearful. I was so stuck in a place of resisting and fearing, and if I could have literally pushed that reality away from me, I probably would have at that time, just out of sheer terror. I could not integrate the possibility that things might change and that I might have to go through pain or medical procedures or who knows what. I just couldn't even fathom it. And so I think that was, I think that's very telling. And of course, you've seen, I've come a long way since then. Clearly on my website, I've got a lot of birth art, a lot of pregnancy art, compared to the way I felt 15 years ago. I have a completely different vision of pregnancy, of myself, of women in general. I can't help but see the beauty and the blossoming and the dynamic energy of pregnancy, of new life, of transformation. Every time I see pregnancy, I can't help but see those things. And it really comes down to a shift in perspective. How you feel about something is how you tend to see it.